Okay, let's unpack this. We've all faced those moments, right? Where a challenge feels just overwhelming or a goal seems out of reach.
Or something inside just feels stuck.
Exactly. And maybe you've tried, thinking it through, talking it out, journaling.
The usual approaches.
Right. But what if the key wasn't just in the words or the thoughts, but in actually drawing?
Drawing, like sketching.
Well, not just doodling aimlessly, following a specific intentional process on paper that somehow unlocks something inside you.
Hmm. That's interesting. The idea that just moving your hand in a certain way could be a direct line to your subconscious.
Yeah, bypassing those conscious blocks maybe,
Yeah.
and starting some kind of inner shift.
It's a fascinating proposition.
Absolutely. And that's really the core of what we're diving into today, Neurographica.
Okay.
Specifically, we're looking at it through the lens of guides and explanations from an instructor named Fatima Williams. We've gathered insights from her material.
Got it. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really get to the heart of Neurographica based on that material.
Exactly. We want to understand the principles, what makes it different.
And crucially, the why behind its specific steps, all grounded strictly in these sources you mentioned.
Right. The goal is to get past a surface look and really explore the potential transformation this method suggests.
Okay, makes sense. So where do we start? What is Neurographica according to these sources? Because it sounds like it might be easily misunderstood.
Yeah, and the sources are very clear right from the start about what it isn't.
Like what?
Well, it emphasizes it's not art therapy. It's not just doodling. And it's definitely not, chaotic self-expression.
Okay, so none of those things. What is it then?
It's defined as a structured, scientifically backed method. It's got specific rules, algorithms, steps, very deliberate.
Structured. Okay, so it has a clear purpose.
A very specific one. It goes way beyond just expressing yourself or calming down for a moment.
How so?
The sources describe its purpose as, well, deep transformation. Reprogramming the mind, even.
Reprogramming. That's a strong word.
It is. It's apparently designed to activate the subconscious, help rewire thinking patterns, provide a tangible path to change.
So it's less about momentary relief and more about fundamental shifts.
That's the idea presented. And this distinction from chaotic drawing seems key. It's about bringing clarity and intention through the process.
Right. I noticed you mentioned avoiding things like zigzags, loops. Are those just stylistic things?
It seems not. The material actually links the inability to guide your hand smoothly, avoiding breaks, zigzags to maybe an inability to guide your inner state, or even your life.
Wow, that's quite a connection.
Isn't it? It introduces this powerful idea. Through your hand, you're literally sending signals to your brain.
So mastering the line, the physical act, is like reclaiming some inner control.
That's how it's framed, starting with the pen on paper.
Okay, that really brings us to the foundations then, the actual drawing. It starts with this specific line, right? The neurographical line.
Yes, exactly. And the sources are incredibly detailed about what makes this line unique. It's not just any wavy line.
How is it described?
It has to start at one edge of the paper and move all the way to the other.
Edge to edge, okay.
And slowly, mindfully. Like a calm stream is the analogy used. Its pattern should change naturally, gently, with each movement. No repeating patterns.
Naturally changing. And the absolute rules?
Must not break. No loops, no zigzags, no sudden jumps. Continuous flowing movement.
That sounds quite challenging to maintain perfectly.
It probably is initially, but that mindful flow is central. So what's a power attributed to drawing a line this specific way?
Yeah, the material claims it's pretty profound. Drawing this line is said to smooth out inner chaos, to stabilize you.
Stabilize. Interesting.
Yeah. It helps you move toward goals with consistency, clarity.
Yeah.
Like you're physically creating a new pathway on the paper, which mirrors a new neural pathway in the brain.
Creating a new path.
It's described as opening a path, taking you where you have never been, helping you tap into inner resources, power you didn't know you had.
Okay, so you've drawn these intentional flowing lines across the page. Then what? The sources mention something that's almost as important.
Yes, the second most important step, they call it. That's rounding and connecting.
Rounding. What does that involve?
Wherever lines cross and create sharp angles or corners, you basically soften them. You fill in those intersections with smooth, curved shapes, like little arcs, joining the line smoothly.
Okay, smoothing out the intersections. Why is that so vital?
This is apparently where a lot of the deep psychological work happens.
Really? Just by smoothing corners?
According to the sources, yes. The act of rounding is described as anchoring new connections in the brain, going deeper into the subconscious. It's said to help dissolve emotional blocks, release old pain, soften hidden beliefs that might be limiting you.
Wow.
This is supposedly where the real reprogramming begins, building those new neural pathways, giving the brain a new structure to work with. Every rounding is seen as a step towards wholeness, alignment, a symbol of completeness.
Completeness. And the sources mention paying attention to how you feel while doing this, your body.
Yes, absolutely key. If you feel tension or worry or resistance while you're rounding specific intersections, yes, the material suggests that's a sign that a deep process is underway. The transformation is being triggered, maybe resisted a bit.
So tension isn't necessarily bad?
Not necessarily bad, no. It indicates that more rounding is needed right there to create softness, to show your system, your brain, that these new connections, these new ideas are safe. It shows readiness to let go.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've got the line and the rounding, the core tools. How do you actually use them for a specific issue or goal? The sources talk about different algorithms, right?
Right. Different processes for different aims, like self-love or neurosun for abundance or relationships. They vary a bit, but they tend to follow a general flow.
And that flow starts where?
It actually starts before you even draw.
Yeah.
Preparation, usually through writing.
Writing first. Interesting. How does that work?
You'd write about your topic, your challenge, maybe for just a minute or two. Aim for a decent number of words, like over 20 is suggested.
Just stream of consciousness.
Not quite. It's more about activating your subconscious around the topic, clarifying your intention for the drawing. Then, after writing, you go back and highlight maybe 6 to 10 words that really resonate.
Resonate how?
Words representing your desires, maybe insights that came up, or just guiding energies for what you want to achieve with the drawing.
Okay, so you get clear on the intention, the keywords, then you go to the paper.
Yes. Next comes the initial composition. You draw the main shape or shapes for your topic on the page.
Using that special line.
Yes, using the neurographical line.
Yes.
It could be one central circle for you in self-love, or a central sun shape for inner power in neurosun.
Or like 2 shapes for a relationship goal.
Exactly. Maybe a circle for yourself on the left and one for your goal on the right in the relationship algorithm.
And you draw these shapes and then...
And then crucially, you immediately overtrace those shapes with the neurographical line again.
Overtrace them. Why?
The sources say this makes the shapes alive. It embeds them with the frequency, the energy of your intention, makes them active.
Wow, okay. Alive.
Yeah. And in that relationship example, the material even suggests checking the size balance between your self circle and the goal circle. Maybe adjust your self circle if needed to feel ready and able to receive the goal.
Interesting psychological element there. Okay. Shapes are down, traced, alive, then.
Then you start developing the structure. This usually means drawing more neurographical lines, but this time inside your main shapes.
Inside. What do those represent?
Exploring your inner energy related to the topic. Your desires may be dissolving blocks within you, and you start rounding those internal intersections right away.
Rounding as you go.
Yes. In the neurosun process, for example, you might draw lines radiating out from the central sun, like rays of empowerment.
Empowerment rays. I like that.
And sometimes you write your highlighted keywords along those rays. They're meant to vibrate with energy, symbolize expansion, and again, round where they intersect.
What about connecting different shapes, like the self and goal circles?
Yes. In algorithms like the relationship one, you draw lines between the shapes, connecting self to goal and goal back to self. Multiple lines.
Like building bridges.
Exactly. But it's framed less as chasing the goal and more as building a magnetic pathway. Attraction, connection, and, of course,
Round all the intersections.
you got it. Round everything. The sources also mention adding other shapes sometimes out in the space around the main ones.
Like what kind of shapes?
Often circles, representing resources. Things like inner qualities, support systems, skills, opportunities. You place them intuitively.
And connect them too.
Connect them with neurographical lines and round everything. They briefly mention triangles too, maybe for breaking through resistance. But emphasize, you must round their sharp corners thoroughly.
Okay, so you've built up the internal structure, connected the main elements. What's next?
And the process moves outward, expanding to the field.
The field, meaning the rest of the paper.
Exactly. The empty space. You start bringing new neurographical lines into the entire space, flowing around and through your main composition.
And what's the purpose of filling the background like that?
This is about connection to the bigger picture. According to the material, these lines connect your inner work to the universe, to higher power, to external possibilities, resources, opportunities out there.
Ah, so linking the inner and outer.
Precisely. Lines flowing in from the edge are seen as receiving support, energy. Lines flowing out represent you stepping out to meet opportunities. It's about alignment.
Alignment. And I'm guessing there's rounding involved here too.
Oh yes, a lot of rounding. Every single new intersection created by these field lines and where they cross your existing shapes and lines needs to be rounded.
So it's rounding inside the shapes and rounding outside in the field.
Oh.
Both are important.
Both are critical, according to the sources. Inner readiness and connecting to what's already available externally, it creates wholeness. They do say you need to finish all rounding, but the idea is to be intensive, focused, to speed things up, not necessarily meditate for hours on each corner.
Right. Okay, the whole page is now filled with interconnected, rounded lines and shapes. It must look quite complex by now. How do you add more energy or depth?
Good question. That's where coloring comes in, also called archetyping.
Archetyping. Okay. How does coloring work here?
This step is described as bringing the drawing to life, connecting even deeper with the subconscious. You choose colors usually soft, bright, happy, warm, joyful ones that express the feeling you want, the empowered state you're aiming for.
And you keep the intention in mind while coloring.
Absolutely. Stay focused on the theme, visualize the outcome, really try to feel the emotions as if it's already real.
Makes sense. Are there rules for the coloring part too?
There's one really important, maybe non-obvious rule. Avoid single, isolated sections of color.
Isolated sections, what does that mean? Why avoid them?
It means a patch of color that isn't connected to other colors or crossed by a neurographical line. The reasoning given is that these isolated bits disrupt the flow, the wholeness. They represent disconnection.
Ah, I see. So everything needs to connect.
Yes. You color in larger flowing sections. Colors can meet, overlap, blend. If you have a white space trapped, you either color it with a neighboring color to join it or draw more neurographical lines through it first, then color. It's all about unity, integration.
That's a really interesting detail about the coloring. Okay, structure, rounding, color. What's next?
Then you add power lines.
Power lines, they sound important.
They are. These are distinct. You use a thicker marker. They are bold lines meant to stand out.
Okay, thicker lines. Where do they go?
They flow from one edge of the paper all the way to the other edge. No stopping partway. They move through the entire drawing over everything else.
Edge to edge again. What do these represent?
Their meaning is described as quite profound. They represent your rising self, your connection to the universe, or a higher power. Trust. Receiving guidance, support. Clarity.
Wow.
They're seen as the how of manifestation, like they intensify your signal, calling in the right person, information, event.
So like supercharged neurographical lines.
Kind of, yeah. And they also need to be connected and rounded, right?
Yes, absolutely crucial. Every single place they intersect with any other line or shape needs to be rounded smoothly. The material usually suggests adding maybe 2 or 3 of these power lines, and they should keep the same thickness all the way across, symbolizing steady, unwavering energy. Okay, power lines added and rounded. Is there one final touch to the drawing itself?
There is one last step in the visual creation, outlining the main shape.
Outlining.
You choose a key shape, or maybe the group of connected shapes. That feels like the absolute core of your work for this drawing. It could be the central U circle, or the sun and its rays, or maybe the connected self and goal shapes.
The core element. And what do you do with it?
You trace around this chosen element with a line that's even thicker than the power lines, the thickest line on the page.
Even thicker. Why? What's the significance of that final bold outline?
This symbolizes the final result, the core answer you've arrived at, the decision made, the power activated around your topic. It makes that central piece really stand out, visually anchoring it for your brain and subconscious.
The main message highlighted.
Exactly. And like everything else, this super thick line needs to be smooth, flowing, and any new intersections it creates must also be rounded. This step is described as, well, where miracles happen, where you're working at the deepest level of manifestation.
Okay, so the drawing is finally complete. Lines, rounding, color, power lines, that final bold outline. What happens after you put the pen down?
There's an important pause, an integration pause.
Oh.
Just take a few deep breaths after that final outline. A moment of quiet. Observe the drawing. It's framed as integration, merging, a sacred pause between creating and receiving.
Letting it all sink in.
Right. And then there's more writing.
Writing again.
Yes. Reflection writing, usually another couple of minutes, aiming for 20+ words again.
Yeah.
But this time you focus on how you feel now.
After the drawing is done.
Exactly. Emotions, thoughts, body sensations right now. And then you can compare this to how you felt before you started drawing, based on your initial writing.
To notice the shift.
Precisely. It highlights the transformation, potentially, that occurred during the process. You note down any words that feel strong or resonant now.
Is that it? Just the drawing and the reflection? The sources seemed clear there was one more piece, a really vital one.
You're absolutely right. The final, absolutely essential step is taking action.
Action. Okay. What kind of action?
You identify and physically write down 3 concrete, simple, gentle actions you will take towards your topic or goal.
3 small steps. Why is that physical action piece so important after all the inner work on the paper?
The sources really emphasize this. This is where energy becomes matter. Taking action, even small steps, signals to the universe, to your subconscious, that you're serious, you're ready, you're stepping into your desire actively.
It's like meeting the universe halfway.
That's a great way to put it. It's an act of co-creation with that field of potential you've just engaged with on the page. It grounds the energetic shifts into reality, moves you forward.
Makes sense. It connects the inner work to the outer world.
And throughout this whole journey, from start to finish, the material encourages you to keep checking in with yourself. What shifts did you notice while drawing? What felt important? Where does your eye keep going on the finished piece?
Staying aware.
Yeah, that ongoing awareness helps you really connect to the drawing's message for you and track the inner transformation that's happening.
It really is quite a system. Blending the conscious intention, the very specific physical drawing actions, accessing the subconscious, using symbols, all geared toward real-world change.
It really is. Neurographica, at least as it's presented in these sources from Fatima Williams, comes across as this very structured, multi-layered method. Using those special lines, the crucial rounding, shapes, color, power lines, that final outline,
Yeah.
all to tangibly work with your subconscious for transformation and potentially manifestation.
And for you listening, if you're exploring different ways to work through challenges or reach your goals, this deep dive hopefully shows how something seemingly simple, like pen and paper, can offer a really different kind of pathway.
A way to maybe unlock inner resources you didn't know you had, dissolve some of those stubborn blocks, and actively step into creating new possibilities for yourself.
So, drawing directly from the sources we looked at today, maybe a final thought to consider.
Yeah.
If you cannot guide your hands smoothly on the paper, how do you guide your life?
And what possibilities might open up when you consciously choose to, well, draw your reality?